Jean Patou is a perfume brand that has long been associated with the most luxurious perfumes you could possibly buy. Although Jean Patou has recently discontinued all of its fragrances, you can still get a lot of them from third parties and other suppliers. Some of the most famous perfumes that brand has produced was Joy, which I reviewed previously, and was also known as the most expensive perfume in the world. But the brand also produced a number of other perfumes, such as Sublime and 1000. I happen to have a sample of Sublime right here. As you can see, the sample itself has an interesting color. Kind of, not quite golden, but more of a peach hue, which is interesting because most perfumes are usually clear or an uninteresting color. But this perfume has several things about it that are quite unique. First of all, it came out in 1992, so it's certainly not as old as some of the perfumes that I've reviewed before. I mean, even Joy came out in 1930, so comparably, this is a very recent and modern perfume, although not necessarily to today's standards. But despite being from the 90s, I would say it has a somewhat older, not necessarily in a bad way, but an older kind of hue to it. You can see it has a little dabbing stick here. I already put some on earlier so I could see how it changes over the hours, but I'll put some on freshly. The top notes of this perfume, there's not very many of them, mainly orange, bergamot, and ylang ylang. And I would say that the citruses are very noticeable. Definitely, even though there's not lemon, the bergamot is very lemony. The orange is more subtle, but it's very, very refreshing, and there is that natural sweetness. Not a sugary sweetness, because I actually really dislike very sweet, sugary perfumes. But this is a very natural, like you peeled an orange open, and kind of the natural, mellow sweetness of the citrus has come out. The middle notes are all floral, so rose, lily of the valley, and orange blossom. And orange blossom is, I would say, the most prominent floral note in this perfume. And real orange blossom does have quite a prominent sweetness, but again, it's not an overpowering sweetness. It's very light and refreshing, so it doesn't gas you and make you sick with that sugary sweetness. The base notes consist of musk, amber, and patchouli, and I wouldn't say that this is a very musky perfume, especially when compared to Joy or anything similar. It does have, the amber really comes through. The amber grounds the entire perfume. Again, so it's not too sweet, it's not sugary, it's very, very natural. It reminds me of walking through a grotto full of orange trees or something of that nature. And for that reason, it's also a very bright, kind of happy perfume. And you don't really think of perfumes as being happy or something, but this is definitely, it can uplift someone's mood as soon as you put it on. And I mean, it could be also just the color of the packaging and the color of the liquid itself being bright and kind of sunny and golden, but it's definitely an uplifting, happy perfume. And also for the base notes, there is a very faint powderiness, a fresh kind of powderiness. The scent and kind of aromatic texture of the powder is pretty typical for not necessarily perfumes from the 90s, but more similar to the perfumes that Jean Patou produced previously, kind of in the 30s, in that epoch. But like I said, the powder note isn't too strong. I quite like it. It's nice. It settles onto the skin. The powder notes also become more prominent the longer you wear the perfume. So, especially after the first or second hour, the citrus notes kind of fade out, although there is still the remaining sweetness. And it kind of is overtaken by a much warmer amber and patchouli kind of warmth and, the base notes. And from there, it kind of fades out entirely. I wouldn't say that this is an extremely long-lasting perfume, maybe around 6 hours, maybe even 5 hours. Definitely not as strong as Joy, but it still lasts a relatively long time, and it does have a very kind of luxurious feel. This kind of intense but not overwhelming, fresh citrus kind of feeling. You could almost imagine yourself going through some Italian lemon trees, a field of lemon trees or something. And the floral notes, even though there are lily of the valley and rose and stuff like that, I don't think that they're very prominent. I would say mainly it's the orange blossom that comes through, especially over time. It kind of sticks with you. And the sillage of the perfume is quite strong, actually. Even if you just put a little bit on, as you kind of move around throughout the air, you'll continuously get those whiffs of the orange and the orange blossom and the amber and stuff like that. So, especially if you put a lot on, people will be able to know that you're wearing it, probably can smell you quite a ways away. And the good thing about that is that this is not a strong or monstrous perfume. It's, like I said, very natural, light, sweet, but not too sweet. The aromatic profile itself is actually very unique. When I first put it on, I was surprised at how it smelled, because it's so different from many other perfumes. It's not a common smell. And the interesting thing is that when you smell it straight out of the bottle, it smells completely different from what it smells when you put it on your skin. To me, smelling it out of the bottle, which is glass, it smells like pineapple to me, like freshly cut pineapple, but putting it directly onto the skin then changes it into a much more citrusy aroma and slightly more floral. And then you don't detect the pineapple anymore, it's completely gone. But I thought that was interesting, because usually smelling the perfume out of the bottle, you do get kind of an idea of what it's supposed to smell like, but the main thing that carries over from the bottle to the skin is the light sweetness of the perfume. But other than that, it's kind of hard to translate the scent from the bottle to the skin. The design of the bottle, the full bottle, not the sample, is pretty typical of the Jean Patou brand. It looks exactly the same as the Joy perfume, along with other Jean Patou perfumes, although there is a different style for this perfume where it's more of an orb, or an elongated orb, which I imagine it's meant to be reminiscent of the oranges. It kind of looks like an orange, even though it's a bit more golden. But it does look very, very similar, kind of reminiscent of a big fruit. So, definitely, I don't know if they still make the bottle like that anymore, but definitely an interesting looking bottle. And the interesting thing about the classification of this perfume is that it's considered an oriental fragrance, which is not my first instinct when I smell this. Usually, I think of Shalimar or something very smoky or spicy or incensey. This is mostly citrus and mostly floral, specifically orange blossom. So I wouldn't, it is an oriental fragrance according to the professionals, but it definitely does not hold anything similar to most traditional oriental fragrances, which is interesting. Maybe except for, I guess, the musk and the amber and the base notes, but I wouldn't say that those are particularly noticeable, except for many hours down the line. But indeed, this is supposedly an oriental fragrance. So if you want to try an oriental fragrance that is very, very different from most others, then this would definitely be a good one to try. And the good thing about this perfume is that it certainly is not the same as Joy, the most expensive of all. Instead, this is actually quite affordable, considering that it is a designer perfume. Usually less than $100. Joy, on the other hand, can be $500 to $600, so not exactly attainable for most people. But this one is definitely readily attainable, especially the samples. The samples are very easy to get. I personally really, really like this perfume, which is surprising even to me because I don't really like sweet perfumes. I kind of prefer more, not smoky, but just kind of warm, kind of leathery. So this is more of a light citrusy, slightly sweet perfume. But the way it's balanced is tolerable to me, and I'm sure a lot of people who do like sweet perfumes would also really like this, because it is very different. Kind of not too citrusy, not too sharp, not too fresh. It doesn't smell like a cleaning product. A lot of citrusy perfumes smell like cleaning products, but this one is extremely natural. I can imagine just grabbing some oranges and just the smell of the fresh juice, kind of like that sort of freshness. So that's mainly the reason why I like it, besides the fact that it's not too overpowering. So overall, I think it's a pretty good perfume, especially as a kind of signature scent sort of thing. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it for Sublime by Jean Patou. If you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like or subscribe, and I usually make videos every Tuesday or Thursday, so stick around.